Hi everyone, it's Karen here. Welcome to another Monday video with me and Lavinia Stamps. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks to all of those who come every Monday. It's fabulous to interact with you, see you. If you haven't found my YouTube channel, I'd love it if you joined me there as well. It's Karen Telfer. So for now, we've got the gorgeous Seren fairy, bringing us messages of hope, faith and happiness. This is the 3 Blessings stamp set. Here I've got Red Berry Wreath, and again you get 2 stamps in that set. We've got Forest Spruce, that's one of my favourite stamps. We've got Twisted Vine, another one of my favourite stamps. And then we've got one of the stamps from the Flora set. So my favourite things, my favourite stamps, my favourite colours, my favourite sentiments. So I do hope you'll stay tuned. The card size 12 centimetres by 17 centimetres. The colours that I'm going to be using. For my background, I'm using these gorgeous Brusho colours. These are, if you haven't used them, they are highly pigmented watercolour powder paints. So we've got alizarin crimson, turquoise and purple. And together they blend beautifully. They sit together on the colour wheel, so they are best friends because they're next to each other. For my stamping, I'm using Charming Pink and Purple Delight. For the blending around the edge, I've got Villainous Potion. For my stamping, I've got Nocturne. I'm using some stickles for some sparkle, my Smoothie blending sponge, black fine liner pens, and I've got my spritzy water bottle. So we'll get started. This background is so much fun to create. I'm going to take my piece of card, which as I said was 12 centimetres by 17 centimetres. And you know what? Whilst you're making one, you may as well make 2 or 3. So the way I keep my Brushos is I've got one of these push pins. You get them from the stationery store. And I've made a hole in the top. Stick my push pin in, and then when I take it out, it's only going to let out a tiny bit of that highly pigmented powder. So I'm just going to tap a tiny bit of this onto my mat. I'm going to leave a space in between because what we're going to do is I'm going to make it into a runny paint, if you like. Making sure that anything in close proximity to this is moved. Okay, so now you've got this lovely watery puddles of paint, and now you're just going to take your card and splat it onto the paint. And because, as I said, they sit next to each other on the colour wheel, you're going to get this lovely, lovely blend. So you're just going to have fun with it. There we have it. Now I'm going to dry that off with my heat gun and come back to you. So I'm now going to use my stickles. I've got gold and... So here we have, it's lovely and dry. It always dries a little lighter than when you first put it on. And here we've got, it's curled a little, but that'll flatten as I carry on working. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my focal point, which is my lovely Seren fairy, and then I'm going to build up the foliage and the decoration around her. I am going to use my stamping platform for this, just because there's a bit of extra texture onto my card, which is caused by the Brushos. And I just want to make sure that she comes out lovely and crisp. I'm going to set her a tiny bit so to the left, so that it gives us a bit of space for our decoration here. And I'm going to set her a tiny bit up so that we can put her sitting into that foliage. And always when I'm using my stamping platform, I will make sure that the card is buttered into the corner. That way, even if my magnets don't hold it, I know exactly where to place it to put it back so that I get a nice crisp image. I'm using my Nocturne and I'm going to ink her up well. I've just re-inked my VersaFine Clair, so and she's beautifully come out. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my forest spruce, which, as I said, is one of my favourite stamps, because look at it, you can use it hanging down, so foliage from in the forest, or grass, or seaweed. I'm sure you will have seen me use this a few times because I absolutely love it. I'm going to take Purple Delight, ink up my stamp, and I'm going to pop this here, and then a second piece here. Just going to clean off my mat and my stamp. And then the very next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to put my foliage at the bottom here. And for this, I'm using one of the stamps in the Twisted Vine set. So you get 2 stamps in this set. I don't often say this, but I really think that that set is a must, because there is so much, just like Forest Spruce, there is so much that you can do with it. I'm going to carry on with my Purple Delight. And I'm just going to bring a piece of scrap paper next to me. You'll see why in a second. And then I'm just going to create some depth. First and second generation. Using this lovely, pretty, look how pretty it is. I absolutely love it. So you want it coming up in and around where she's sitting. And varying the height. Just so that we've got this sort of protective little area where she's sitting. I'm going to pop that one up there so that I've got this varied height here. And then I'm going to take one of the stamps from my Flora set. And I'm going to take Charming Pink this time. And I'm going to ink this up and pop some of this in between my foliage there. Now, if you don't have the exact same stamps that I've got, you can use any of the ones in your collection. So here we go. Now we're going to create this focal point next to her using our red berry wreath set. So as I say, you get 2 in this stamp set. You've got this smaller berry set or this larger piece of the wreath. And I'm going to stamp that up using Nocturne. And then I'm just going to build this coming in from the side. So there's a bit of a gap there, and I'm going to pop something in that space. Then I'm going to take the 3 blessings. Here I've got hope. Now when I'm stamping these, I'm going to stamp hope, faith and happiness. And the reason I'm going to do that is because happiness is the largest word. And so I'm going to put that at the bottom. It sort of brings the eye down, grounds the piece and the words. I'm still inking it up with Nocturne. So my hope is going to go at the top. My faith will come next. You can see that I clean my stamps off. I'm going to pop the faith here. I clean my stamps with my cloth, which is always on my lap. That way, I always know that my stamps are clean when I go to use them. And I don't mess up the rest of my work. And I'm going to pop happiness here. Then I'm going to take my fine liner set. I'm using the finest pen. If you don't have those, you could use a black Sharpie, a fine Posca pen, any of those. Now, you can do anything you like with this, but I just thought it might be nice to highlight the words. And you can see I'm not being too careful here. And then I'm just going to create little dangly pieces from the branches. Give it some bunny ears and some little tassels. This one I'm going to hang probably from this branch. Little bunny ears and little tassels. And this one's going to come from this branch. Bunny ears and tassels. So I hope you're enjoying it. I love it when you tag me in your makes. That way I don't miss them. So if you do this design, I'd love to see it. I'm using my acetate. That protects my work because the brushos, I will admit, they make a mess of your fingers. Now I always have hand sanitizer next to where I'm working. That helps reduce the amount of spillage onto your work, but it does take a little while to come off. But I like to use my acetate because then it protects where I'm actually working. As I said, I'm using Villainous Potion. It's one of the newer colours. But if you don't have that, perhaps you could go for a pink or one of the other darker colours like the Seedless Preserve. Wilted Violet would also be a good one. So I'm using my smoothie and I'm just keeping it moving in a circular motion to create a nice wide frame around my piece. And you'll have heard me say 100 times, I like to have a darker border because it frames the piece and focuses your eye to the center. So you can see the difference here with this side versus this side. So I'm bringing this darker purple up so she is now sitting in the foliage. Now what I would normally do is I would frame that, put that onto my mounted coloured card. What would I do? White or black? And then I will apply the stickles. And I do that because stickles take a little while to dry. So I'm now going to use my stickles. I've got gold and icicle. I'm going to put the gold in the lantern and the icicle on her wings. I always test a little bit onto my mat first, because then I know how much pressure to apply and I can gauge how it's going to come out. Now, I don't want to overpower this delicate little flame, so I'm just wiggling the nib here in and around this lantern. And I'm going to do the same when I do her wings. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create some splatters around the edge to give it a really magical feel. To do that, you can either use a Posca pen, a white one. You will have seen me do that a million times in some of my other videos. But today I'm going to use some white acrylic paint that I've watered down. And I only water it down so that it creates me nice little splatters. Now, in an ideal world, one would have put this afterwards, but I was so excited to show you the sparkle and the glitter that I put it on before my splatters. The reason I would do my splattering first is because now this is a bit wet, but we'll see how we go. In an ideal world, I would put my piece of paper over my design and then create my splatters. So let's see how we go. So I like to tap it with another brush. I have a bit more control that way. And I'm just going to splatter, particularly in the darker areas. As I say, that's going to just create me this lovely, magical little feel. Here we go. I clean my brush straight away. So there we have it. Lots of hope, faith and happiness. Thanks so much for joining me. I'd love to see your makes, and I'll be back again next Monday with another video tutorial. Bye for now.